I did not write this.
I didn't write it.
Hello everyone and welcome back to a special presentation of Anime Club After Dark, episode 4 of our Vinland Saga episode reviews. I'm joined tonight by our chivalry of Shota's Shotaro.
You should see me in a crown.
Oh, is that a euphemism?
No, it's a song. What would that be a euphemism for?
I have no idea. It was the first thing that came to mind when I was talking to you, though. Anyways, episode 4 of Vinland Saga. So I want to start off with something kind of interesting that happened in, part of it happened in the last episode, but you see the fruition of it in this episode. And that's Bjorn in the last episode started eating a mushroom, and he almost immediately afterwards start going berserk. So, Sho, I want to go to you with this because we actually did discover that there's some potential truth behind this.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's historically accurate in quotes that Norwegian Vikings would eat hallucinogenic mushrooms and then go flip their shit in battle, and that's what made them so menacing, because they just gave no fucks. They just like completely attacked without any inhibitions. But this is only speculated. It's not like agreed upon that it definitely happened. It's like sort of borderline rumor, but there is some historical evidence to say that that happened. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the term berserk comes from the Norwegians eating mushrooms and going berserk. So I actually
believe that's right. I'm not 100% sure, but I actually do believe that is where the word comes from, yes.
So that was a nice, interesting, historically accurate anecdote that was included in the episode, which is consistent with how the show has been going, dripping in historically accurate stuff inside, which is really interesting and really I like that part of the show.
I actually went and looked at it really quick. So berserk actually does come from an Old Norse word, berserker, which means trance-like fury.
So yeah, that's basically.
So yeah, that is exactly where it comes from.
Yep.
So yeah, I thought this was actually a really cool nod to something that may or may not be historically accurate. I mean, obviously, as you said, it's still debated heavily as to whether this is true. But it is at least scientifically accurate that these mushrooms do exist and people use them to achieve hallucinogenic effects. And one of those effects can be very ravenous, violent behavior. So, and the actual... The mushroom that they show in the show is a mushroom that's known to be hallucinogenic, so that's a really cool nod to something that's not historically accurate, but scientifically accurate at least. I thought it was a cool little thing that they did.
I feel so learned.
I know, right?
Anime is educational.
You almost feel like you're learning something from a non-historical anime.
What?
You almost feel like you're learning something from an anime that's not based on historical events.
But it is.
It kind of is. It's not based on an actual historical event. It's just based around historical events.
Honey, you just had two sentences that sounded the same to me.
Either way, it was a cool little detail that they put in there, and I liked it. I especially liked the way they animated him going berserk, because he sells it really well.
I didn't like the eyes.
But you know, the eyes rolled back in the head.
The eyes were a little cheesy.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. They may have been slightly cheesy. Definitely anime for sure.
Yes, very anime. I did like that he slammed his head into the post and then was like, ugh, and then noticed that Thors was standing beside him, and then charged Thors. That was,
and also starts attacking his own people.
Yep, that was good.
Yeah. I was gonna say it said very anime. It's very Dragon Ball Z like, honestly. The
Oh.
eyes rolled back in the
Oh,
head.
I guess.
Um, but the way it was animated, I thought was done really really well. And that whole scene actually, where he's sort of facing down Bjorn, and then Thor basically just punches him in the face, and he's like, "Nah, down, bitch. This is my show. Get down, bitch. Ain't no mushroom can take me."
This isn't Bjorn Saga.
No, this isn't. No, no, it's not.
Fuck up. Yeah.
I also want to give some nod to Wit Studio for the way that they've sort of portrayed Askeladd in this. God, he looks. I don't want to say he looks stereotypically villainous, but the way he glares and grins at people, God, it's good.
It's a very sadistic grin.
It is. It's oh God, it's so good.
I think he grinned too much though. There's too much smiling from him. He needs to tone down the smug.
Maybe, but it's definitely villainous.
It's very, I don't know if it's villainous. It's very like Viking, where you enjoy the violence.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Vinland Saga, so it's appropriate, I suppose.
Yes. For once, you get the character right in Askeladd. everyone should be Askeladd.
Well, then it would be a boring show.
What do you mean? Everybody would be smiling at each other with their big white teeth. It's so nice.
Something else that happened in this that I thought was kind of telling of Thor's character is during this whole stare down thing, because after Bjorn's laid out on his own fucking ship, Thor's goes back to the ship that he came from, where Askeladd's ship has kind of pulled up to it, and they're putting planks out to go raid this ship. Thor's is sort of staring down Askeladd, and he realizes that Askeladd is actually the leader of this group. And he does this without Askeladd having drawn his weapon. And when asked this, Thor basically responds, "I can smell it," which, for someone who he may not realistically be a military leader anymore, but for someone who could be a military leader, that's actually a good sort of intuition to have, when you can actually tell who's in charge just by looking at them.
That's very anime though.
Again, yes, it is very anime. I think we're
smell you.
I think
smell the
bloodlust. We're
bloodlust.
kind of losing track of the idea that this is actually an anime, so it's going to have some of those elements in it.
Oh my god. Also, I wrote that down, that he hadn't drawn his weapon in the dock, because I thought, like, I wonder why he's the leader. He's the only one that hadn't drawn his weapon, whereas everyone else had.
Yeah. He's the only one that's calm in this situation.
He's the only one that's smiling. Like an idiot. Like a clown. Like the circus he runs.
But yeah, you say it's very anime. I don't mind that. I actually think it's good. It's certainly working in this anime's favor. At least so far, that they've had moments like this that have been, yes, very anime, but also kind of fitting. I mean, they certainly fit into what's going on.
I didn't like the line that he smelled it. That was a stupid line.
I thought it was cool.
Okay, you're a very big weeb.
I mean, I won't say you're lying, because you're not.
Oh god.
So
you just want this to turn into JoJo's, where they're all just like posing.
Viking
Vikings.
JoJo's. I will take that, and I will
not
yes.
what I want. This is why I don't like it. This is where our tastes differ. Okay.
So one of the things that happens after this is, instead of having Thor or having Askeladd's men come over and them battling it out with all of their men, Thor basically challenges Askeladd to a one-on-one duel. Askeladd accepts this duel.
It's time to duel.
I'd like to say he accepts this duel by not, getting the boat closer, hopping over. No, he just takes a running leap over to the other boat. Again, very anime.
Well, I actually like that, because they did a really cool cutscene for that.
Oh yeah, the
The
little
animation for it was really
yeah.
nice. They did like they changed the camera angle to from the water, and then you just saw him leap over a big giant leap. It's like the girl who leapt through time, the
I did
Viking who
not make
leapt
that
through.
comparison, but I
What?
will say it's wrong.
I mean, I swear it's the same shot. Okay.
The only thing I remember a lot about the girl at the time, but I constantly remember her falling over and like spinning into things.
Oh, like
I
Bjorn?
know, that's the one thing. Kinda, yeah.
Oh my god.
I didn't make that comparison to the girl who leapt through time, but you are kind of right about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta ask, what did you think about the actual duel itself?
I was so engrossed in it. It was so good. It was literally the best scene of this anime so far. It was so well animated. I loved all the twists and turns. I loved it.
I would definitely agree. It's definitely the best scene so far in the anime. I actually would argue it's the best animated scene so far as well.
Yes, that too.
And I don't know, just the whole thing works. Like, this is two people fighting that know how to fight, and they know how to fight smart. And you see that in Askeladd's strategy, where instead of just going straight for him, he actually uses something that's at his disposal, where he sees one of the ropes that's holding the mast up is basically right next to him. So instead of lunging at Thor's with the sword, he actually goes for the rope that's holding the mast up, cuts it, so it falls down and comes in between them, and he uses that to kind of shield his movements so that he can go underneath where the mast is falling down and get to a point where he can cut Thor's. Like, that was like some brilliant strategy.
Honey, that was like Matrix, girl. We did some slow motion fucking limbo under the mast into a fucking slash. Loved it.
Yeah. And then throughout the course of this, you actually see Askeladd break Thor's sword. And you're like, oh, well, what the fuck is going to happen now? And then Thor's, again, like a fucking badass, just, I don't even know, kung fu's himself out of this. And to the point where he is like elbowing Askeladd and then gets him to drop his sword, picks it up, and then holds it to Askeladd, holding Askeladd's own sword to his throat.
All the mind
I'm thinking to myself, God damn, there's so many anime you'd be very helpful in.
Everyone needs a big daddy to protect them.
I won't say no. I don't know, that whole fight was so cool, and just the way it was, just wit can do amazing things when they want to. And then it turns into, after this point, you think, well, okay, Thor's has won this duel, and it's gonna be, all uphill from here. But then it turns into this, like, I don't know, intellect off between Askeladd and Thor's, where they just keep talking to each other, and like Askeladd's trying to lure him over to them, and Thor's is like, nah, this is not what I'm here for. Like, Askeladd straight up tells him that he's wasting his talent in Iceland, that he should actually come and lead their little group. Askeladd says it's a joke, but I think there was actually some sincerity behind that. And one of the things that Thor says throughout all this is that a true warrior doesn't need a sword. Now, I want to say that today that might be very true, but back then maybe not so much.
Well, yeah, obviously. Well, today it will be a true. We would replace warrior with, like, I don't know. A true soldier doesn't need a gun. Probably be more appropriate for today, but the meaning behind the saying is definitely more appropriate for today's audience. But I still like that line, even though it is, I guess, anachronistic. Well, it was supposed to be a very epic line. I still thought it was pretty good.
And again, it goes to show Thor's actual, like, personality and his intentions. It's like, he knows how to do all this stuff. Like, he knows how to be a warrior that can violently hack and slash through people, but it doesn't mean that he necessarily needs to or wants to do it.
Like Gandhi
It's
said.
almost like he's saying that there's always another way you can do this without violence.
Like Gandhi said, having a weapon is very different than actually using it.
He surely didn't say that in Civ, did he?
Oh no, yeah, he did. He also,
right before he nuked you?
Yes, he also said that nuclear weaponry is the future.
Boom!
Wrong culture, but literally Thor's is Gandhi anyways, so it doesn't even actually matter. It's not only anachronistic, but it's also cross-cultural.
So, something else that happens during this whole thing is Bjorn wakes up from his fucking stupor from being laid the fuck out by Thors, sees what's going on, jumps over to the other ship, and then grabs Thorfinn by the head, basically by the hair, and has this dagger up to his throat. Of course, Thor sees this, and he's like, well, shit. I can't kill Askeladd without getting my son killed. And they're not going to let me walk away. So Thor's actually ends up basically surrendering by throwing his sword in the water. But he does get Askeladd to admit that he lost the duel.
I like the way... Of course,
he does this... Oh, go ahead.
I like the way they did that. Like, it was very subtextual that it wasn't like, okay, I'll kill you and I'll let your people go. Instead of saying that line, they said... I admit you won the duel, which meant the same thing, but it was not like overbearing, unlike the narrator. But but I did enjoy that they said like that.
Yeah, it wasn't like in your face. There was a lot of subtext behind it, but you understood what they were doing. It's like, okay, I admit that I lost the battle, but you lost the war.
Sure.
Because immediately after this, he throws his hands up in a signal that almost like, okay, yeah, I lost. But he's actually signaling the archers that are above in the ravine, and they all just shoot their arrows all at once into Thor's. That was pretty epic.
That was pretty epic. I like how he doesn't immediately die. He's like such a badass that like he just calmly is like, Bjorn, you let go of my son right now. And Bjorn's like, oh fuck. This is a fucking monster. I'm gonna do what this bitch says. And then he's like, Leif, give my head to the Jomsvikings. And Leif is like, what are you doing? And then, like, literally, it's like he dies standing up. He just dies. He just doesn't even collapse. He's like, goodbye, world. And he just dies.
And the best part of it is when he originally gets shot with the arrows, like, he barely even flinches.
Yeah, he's like... Yeah, this is just another Tuesday.
The way they did that was so epic, and like I feel like everyone watching was expecting him to like be fall over after he got shot, and he's like just sitting there standing talking to people, like, yeah, all right, Leif, go do this, son, I love you, and let me die standing up looking at the sky.
That's also very anime, but I won't complain.
Yes, it is.
I won't complain about that. I won't complain about because I
certainly won't complain about how it was done.
I liked it.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, the episode ends with you see Askeladd and his men sailing on the ocean. It's, I guess, implied that they stole one of their ships, one of Thor's ships, because they came in with 2 ships. Now they have 3. One of them is actually in tow with no one on it, or seemingly no one on it. You find out that, well, first of all, you find out that all those people that Thor's laid out, none of them died. They all had non-life-threatening injuries, and they all are still alive. They just got knocked out, which shows a lot of nobility and compassion in Thor's.
Also, the how good he is in combat, that he can still knock them out without causing a fatality.
Yeah, not a single fatality at all. But something else you find out is on this ship that's in tow, Thorfinn has actually stowed away. And he actually comes up onto the top deck of the ship, and he is basically staring down ACAD from the ship that's in tow. And he threatens to kill him as a little tiny kid. No one's taking him seriously, but we're led to believe that this will be the bulk of the story going forward.
Yeah.
About a sort of a revenge plot between Thorfinn and ACAD.
Yeah, so like just before that, we see Thorfinn like under the hull, whatever, under the deck of the ship, just like crying and like, why did my dad die? He won the fight. Why did he throw away his sword and kill himself, basically? Which I found is very believable. It's a very believable motivation, because to a child it wouldn't make any sense. Like, it's too complicated of an ethical decision or problem or dilemma for a child to understand. So I appreciate that this backstory, allegedly, is believable and makes sense, and I can understand it, because a lot of backstories in anime, a lot of shonen backstories are really stupid. But this one, I feel makes sense. I can believe it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I think it was portrayed very well, honestly.
I still don't understand why Thor's was so ethical, but okay. But I can understand. If I just suspend my disbelief about that certain aspect, then I can say it's a good backstory.
I had this feeling that along with this sort of revenge plot that was probably going to take up the bulk of the story going forward, I feel like along the way, Thorfinn might learn some things about his father that will fill in some of these gaps that the audience might have.
Most probably, because there's still a lot of unanswered questions, specifically about Floki. Yes, it's Floki.
Yeah.
I keep mixing up Floki and ACAD. Honey, it's racist, but they look the same. Oh my god. Wait, I wanted to say one more thing. Okay. Even, like, if I didn't know that the first 3 episodes were released as one, I could clearly tell there was a jump in quality from the last episode to this episode. Like, animation and story-wise. So I feel like it's faster paced, better written, and better animated. So I hope there's more of that.
Okay, yeah, me too. And you know, we talked about it a little bit last episode when we talked about them being released, the first 3 episodes being released all at the same time. Do you think they just did that to get this out of the way? Maybe.
Probably.
To get, yeah, maybe. I mean, there might be something to that. I don't know. It makes sense.
No one wants to watch a Viking anime without any fighting. So we get all the bullshit out of the way, and now we can start animating the blood and gore.
I mean, I certainly hope that's what's coming. And if nothing else, I certainly hope that the animation quality is going forward is what we saw in this episode, because this episode's animation was top notch.
Very nice.
All right. Well, thank you all there for dropping in to listen to us. We hope you enjoyed it, because we always enjoy bringing this stuff to you. If you want to check out previous episodes of the podcast, you can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. If you want to keep up with what we're doing, you can join us on Discord, Facebook, Twitter, and our website. Shoot us an email if you have any questions, or if you have any ideas for topics you would like for us to talk about in the future. Links to all these things will be down below in the description. As always, I have been your host, Alex, and I will see you next time. Say goodnight, show.
I'd love to break Thor's sword.
Not even. Oh, I'm not taking the bait. Good night, everybody.
Good night.